So here's our video for the latest recap of the latest discussions, the My Last Duchess discussion and the variations on the theme by Willis Carr-Miller's discussion. With the My Last Duchess one, there's a couple comments made on the discussion board that that I wanted to clarify. That a couple people brought up the possibility that the wife is cheating, that the wife is flirting, and I don't think that's an accurate statement. Although there's one line, a couple lines in here where the Duke seems to hint at it. Where on line 31 she says, "She thanked men, good, but thanks somehow, I know not how." And that, in that part there, seems to, it's confusing. I'm not exactly sure what it's saying, and it seems there's the possibility of some misbehavior on her part there. However, he immediately follows it up with, I think, is the real complaint there, when he says, "As if she ranked my gift of a 900 years old name with anybody's gift." And so it's not a matter, it's not fidelity in terms of adultery. It's he's got a very specific idea of what accounts to what is an acceptable amount of the veneration of him, and it involves to be respecting him. You cannot hold anything anyone or anything in the world equal to him. You have to consider him superior to everything. And I think I think the evidence for just exactly what her unfaithfulness consisted of is up higher. Let's start off. They're looking at the painting. The Count and the Ambassador are looking at the painting. And the Duke and the Ambassador. The Duke and the Ambassador are looking at the painting, and he's explaining the painting. And about the spot of joy that's captured in the painting, and the Duke is explaining how that how she was like that. That came up all the time with her. That was a constant look for her. She had because it's a sign of happiness. She's pleased. She's excited. She had a heart. This is line 21. She had a heart, starting on line 21. How shall I say? Too soon made glad. Too easily impressed. She liked whate'er she looked on, and her looks went everywhere. Sir, 'twas all one, my favor at her breast, the dropping of the daylight in the west, the bough of cherry some officious fool broke in the orchard for her, and the white mule she rode with round the terrace. All and each would draw from her alike the approving speech, or blush at least." And so notice the list there of the things that please her, the things that can produce the spot of joy. The sunset, cherry blossoms, the donkey that she rode on. The whole world to her was delightful. I think we're told a lot of times that we should be like this in life, that we should find everything exciting, everything wonderful. And that's how she was. She found everything exciting and everything wonderful. But he is a control freak, and he demands respect, and his sense of what respect involves has to do with holding him above everything else. He's a psychopathic, egocentric person. And I think another thing is, if you wanted to go into the history of the whole thing, this poem takes place in the Renaissance. You can tell that when he says Fra Pandolf, that's a reference to a Renaissance painter, or the kind of name that a Renaissance painter would have. And the political situation that he's describing is typical of the Renaissance. And the Renaissance Italy was divided up into a lot of small cities. It wasn't a unified country. It was a lot of small towns and individual cities and duchies and counties, sort of little political centers, but many of them. I think the comparison I always like to make is if you've watched The Sopranos or any of the movies about read any of the books about the mafia, it works very much in the mafia. You've got all these crime bosses, and they've all got their turf, and they're fighting for their turf. And respect is an incredibly important thing, that they have to be held above by any of their underlings. They have to be considered more important than anything else in the world. So I think that'd be a good comparison there is with the mafia. Okay, the next, I wanted to say just one thing about Variations on a Theme by William Carlos Williams. And I actually thought, once again, I thought both of these discussions were really good. I think you guys, as I read through the discussions, you guys seem to be figuring out a lot of stuff together. Like all of you together are throwing around ideas and learning from each other. It seems to me it's working really well. I'm very pleased by how these are going. But there's one idea that I wanted to get out. This was a discussion of tone in the poem. And here's so I've got a slide here. And I think tone in writing is a really hard thing to identify. Tone in speaking, we can hear each other's tones really effectively, but in writing it's not easy to do at all. So there's the difference between what is said versus how it's said, content versus the style of something. And I think if you compare the two poems, that This Is Just to Say and the Variations on a Theme, I think there's a dramatic difference in what is said between the two. That what is This Is Just to Say is kind of a mild household annoyance, where Variations on a Theme is talking about horrific psychopathic criminal behavior. But I think if you look in terms of the how it's said, in terms of the style, I think both of them actually kind of speak the same way. They've got the same kind of language. I think one student, I forgot the name, who used a great phrase. He talked about casual tone. And there is something very sort of casual about how the poems are explaining, how the speaking voice in the poem is explaining themselves. But given that, I think that this, in writing, it's very hard to keep, it can sometimes be very hard to keep these two things separate. That what is said can bleed into how it's said, that the kind of thing you're talking about can become a sort of stylist, can have a tone quality to it in a way that it doesn't in speech. In speech, you can say so much. Oh, that's nice. Oh, that's nice. Oh, that's nice. You know, it's like the same thing being said with sort of different tones, whereas in writing, it's hard to do that. Okay, so I think you guys are doing good work, and keep it up. And I'm going to make an announcement on this, but as you're preparing for the writing on your paragraphs, I strongly recommend, when you pick your poems, to go over the discussions on the poems, read through everyone's comments to help give you a better understanding of what the poems are doing, because I think that the discussion boards are really good in that. Also, look at my videos, okay? They're on Integrity. These videos are Integrity, and I don't know how many of you are actually able to get Integrity on your computers, because I know I have problems with it, and I can tell how there's a view count on the YouTube videos, and if it's based on that, I don't think only more than like 3 or 4 of you are watching these videos, so I think they will help you with your writing. Okay, I will talk to you again soon.